All right, thank you for your time. This is my first city council meeting that I'm at, so what luck that I get drawn first. I'm here to talk about an issue that I care about a lot, which is star voting. We have an opportunity here in Eugene, in Lane County, and in Oregon to show the entire country that the process of elections can be better. And it can be better to participate in as individuals, and it can be better for the folks who are elected. Right now in the system where we have, you select one voting, there you can see in the latest two presidential primaries, which are probably some of the most rancorous elections that we're familiar with right now, with huge number of candidates, interesting policy positions where people are vying legitimately to figure out what the direction of our country should be. And yet people are just in consternation and worry constantly about where their one chance of putting their voice can go, choosing that they need to vote strategically because if they choose a candidate that is not viable to gain a majority or gain a plurality, their vote is wasted. And potentially a candidate who they really don't like, that they agree with the least, is the one who gets elevated to the elected position. With star voting, public has an opportunity to cast what I call a high bandwidth vote. You can not only declare your first choice, you can also register support for a second and third choice. And the final candidates go, and the one who has the best public support will win the election and will represent the people. You could think how much this would change our elections if we didn't have our peers on social media constantly worrying about where we are going to put our voice, and if we could all come together and talk about which candidates we support and the policy positions that we want, casting our vote for exactly what we want to see in public representation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Samuel Shaw, followed by Brett Blunden.
How's it going? Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I just want to say that, oh yeah, my name is Sam Shaw, Whitaker neighborhood. But I just want to say that when you guys are thinking about star voting, you probably have a lot of questions about it. And I had a lot of the same questions too. I was wondering, is it worth it? How expensive is it? Is it even going to work? Is it just drop in the bucket? But I stand before you now as a chief petitioner of star voting for Lane County. And I'm really enthusiastic about it. I think it's really a cost-effective way to make elections run more smoothly. And it may seem like a drop in the bucket, but all over the country right now, there are chapters of star voting popping up in Texas, Albany, New York, multiple here in Oregon, and we're continuing to grow. And I think that says something. It's something that started right here in Eugene. So citizens all over the country want a voting system they can have confidence in, and if they don't have confidence in their voting system, voters are liable to not have any confidence in the government at all, or any of its institutions. And so star voting empowers voters by not having to vote for the lesser of two evils, allowing them to show their preference for each candidate, and removing that strategic voting, so you have to vote honestly with star. So Eugenians take pride in being innovative and able to make ideas that seem outside the realm of possibility reality. This is a chance to put Eugene on the map for something that's cool as voting reform. Already in the past election, when it was star voting for Lane County, the folks in Eugene had already voted with majority to want to pass star voting. So I call on you today to please refer it to the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you. Alan Zundell, followed by Stephanie McLaughlin.
Good evening. My name is Alan Zundell. I live in the city of Eugene. I'm in Ward 1. I'm retired. I'm here to thank you for scheduling a work session to consider putting the star voting initiative on the November ballot. I was a political science professor, and during the course of my career, I became convinced that the single thing that we could do to improve our political life overall was adopting a better voting method than the types we generally used in the United States. There's a number of alternative voting systems used in other countries, and I became a proponent of ranked choice voting. I worked to promote that for about 13 years, including the successful ballot initiative in Benton County in 2016. Right after that, though, I became aware of star voting, which was recently developed, and I spent about 6 months studying it, debating it, discussing it, and I became convinced that this is far and away the superior form, or would be the superior form, for electing a single candidate to a public office. So I think adopting star voting would be a historic first for the city of Eugene, on par with things like the initiative and referendum. So thank you for getting to the point of considering this, and I hope we can move forward and not only get it on the ballot, but pass it. Thank you.
Thank you. Charles Fournier, followed by Wayne Martin.
Good evening, Charles Fournier. I'm living in Ward number 3, and I'm here to speak in support of star voting. Eugene and N County are facing complex structural challenges that will take years to solve and require both difficult budget arbitrage and sustained financial commitment. They also require our elected officials to muster as much community support as they can to resist special interest. And I believe that star voting will help you get that community support. The list of issues our community is facing, is long and sobering. We can start with housing affordability crisis. In 2017, Eugene officially became the nation's second most constrained real estate market in the U.S., worse than San Francisco and only second to Seattle. We also have 1,633 unsheltered people, men, women, children. And our community cannot even muster the courage to invest in a much-needed county courthouse to replace a building built in 1959 that does not meet the ADA requirement and is unsafe and practical for juries, court staff, and legal counsel. Eugene has a long-standing reputation as a bastion of progressive values, but as those who have thought special use permit to build townhouse communities, who have thought financial means to build courthouse or safer schools, have faced an avalanche of opposition from special interest. And this entrenched group can disrupt elections. Star voting has none of the flow of our current system, and as you have heard, many qualities that are very unique. More fundamentally, star voting will lead to election outcomes where a higher percentage of the population will end up feeling invested in the outcome and truly represented by its elected officials. Thank you.
Thank you. Jay Concada, followed by Rich Self.
Cool. Yeah, hi. My name is Jay Sincata. I am in Ward 3 in the South Hills, and I really appreciate you holding this public forum tonight and all the people who've come. This is, democracy in action. And I'm a newcomer to Eugene. I actually just moved here about a year and a half ago, November 2nd, 4 days before the election. And due to the great staff and volunteers in this very building, I was able to get registered in time and get my ballot in. And it was, I love the pamphlet. I came from the DC area where it was pretty much only 2 parties. And there were like 9 parties represented in the pamphlet and detailed descriptions of what they were all about. And I love that. I love that diversity of thought. And then I saw, all the lawn signs for Star. And I had already been a fan of ranked choice voting. And I got really intrigued when I learned that Star actually improves on that. It does a better job with the spoiler effect and strategic voting and all the structural problems with our current voting system. And I was so disappointed that it missed by 7,000 some votes when there were like 21,000 ballots that didn't vote one way or the other. So I've been volunteering along with so many other people here to get it back on the initiative for this election. I'm asking for your support. STAR is a more expressive voting system that produces results in an election that better reflect the will of the people, and I really appreciate you supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. Sara Wolk, followed by Bruce Sisson.
Thank you. I'm Sara Wolk, Executive Director of the Equal Vote Coalition, Ward 1, and I've been working on the star voting ballot initiatives for 3 years now. Actually, 4 years now. I started in Portland doing the same thing. But star voting, for those of you who haven't had it explained, is really simple. You score your candidates up to 5 stars. STAR stands for score, then automatic runoff, and that's exactly how it works. Your vote automatically goes to the finalist you preferred between the two highest scoring candidates if your favorite can't win. And that's what really empowers voters to be able to vote their conscience without fear of wasting their vote. So for me, as a voter, what inspired me to get into election reform in the first place was the fact that until we can truly voice our opinion, honestly, without having these incentives to vote for whoever we see as more electable, it's not an empowering system, and it's always going to bias in favor of who we see as most electable. That's a problem that can be solved with STAR voting. So STAR voting is an Oregon-grown voting method which offers a nationally viable model. This is our opportunity to be leaders in election integrity with a proposal that fully delivers on a wide variety of our goals. With STAR voting, we would skip the low turnout primary for local nonpartisan races and just vote once in November. A list of things that STAR voting accomplishes is STAR voting is a logistically viable, scalable voting method, which goes much further than other options out there. And unlike other options, STAR voting is compatible with top-notch election security and auditing protocols. STAR voting is highly accurate, topping the charts in simulations and studies, no matter how many candidates or parties are in the race. And that is really a game changer. Our current system is only accurate with 2 candidates.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jonathan Miller, followed by Joshua Korn.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Miller, and I am from Ward 2, and I am here tonight to urge you to approve STAR voting for use in Eugene elections. In the coming years, as you can imagine, we are about to undergo massive societal changes. How we live, how we eat, how we drive, how we work are all going to change. With the emergence of these previously unimaginable technologies straight out of science fiction, from autonomous vehicles to human genome editing, we need a democracy that can keep up. We already see every day how the current voting system and the two-party system from which it stems contributes to legislative stagnation. It's really, really difficult to get meaningful reform passed. And this is becoming increasingly frustrating for both the electorate and for the lawmakers who swore an oath to advocate on behalf of their constituents. Right now, we're told to pick a side. It's yes or no, left or right, red or blue. But that's not how we are as a people or as a society. We have overlapping beliefs. We very often like 2 candidates equally and want to show our support for both. STAR voting was created here in Oregon by a team of election experts who were looking for a better way. A system that could actually bring all people with their many faceted views and beliefs together. A voting system that could show statistically where we agree, where we disagree, and exactly how close we are. In a fast-moving, modern democracy, this kind of information is invaluable. And it's only possible through STAR voting. These election experts from both sides of the aisle have determined it's the safest, simplest, and easiest way to improve the electoral process for big cities, rural areas, red or blue states, and where it matters most on every ballot which we cast. Thanks.
Thank you. Anthony Martins, followed by Mark Osterloh.
Hi, Anthony Martins, Ward 3. I work for Bethel School District, and among other duties, I teach math. I support STAR voting because it is simply and mathematically the most democratic method of all the methods I've researched. I found out about it back when I lived in Colorado, actually. I didn't even hear about it here. I moved here and was super excited that this is where it was from. It's a good voting method. But what I'd like to talk about actually has to do with the system to get things on the ballot. So I was a chief petitioner, and we put a lot of effort into that. I watched it. We had over 100 people gathering signatures. There was energy. There was movement. And we fell just short. So you need like 9,000 signatures, and you need them in 100 days. And that's really my big issue, is the 100 days. That's a breakneck speed. Largely because they don't all count. So many of them will get invalidated due to lots of reasons. For instance, not everybody that lives in Eugene counts for purposes of being on a ballot. And the rules are a bit confusing. Also, a lot of our signatures were invalidated because the signatures did not match, which is to prevent fraud, we did not forge those signatures. We actually got affidavits. That wasn't good enough. That comes down to a handwriting test, which is kind of problematic if you got arthritis or something between the times that you signed. But in any case, what this amounts to is it makes it really difficult to get something on the ballot if you don't have paid signature gatherers. And we even had some. And so that sort of requires like a corporation or a wealthy person to rubber stamp things. Otherwise, it's just really difficult to get something on the ballot if you're a volunteer force of working people. I feel like that you could make this right by getting it on the ballot, so please do that. And the other thing is if you could look at that 100-day rule, that'd be great. I don't even know why it's there. People's opinions aren't gonna change that much in 100 days. I think you can make it a year or two, then they could be as strict as they want with the invalidation and we'll have time to go get more signatures. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Osterloh, followed by Todd Boyle.
My name is Mark Osterloh, Ward 4. I'm a retired physician with a law degree. I'm a strong proponent of star voting, a new, more efficient, more economical, and more representative way of voting. I was an unpaid volunteer who personally collected 4,762 petition signatures, more than anyone else, by standing outside the motor vehicle department for 13 weeks, Monday through Friday, from 7:30 to 4:30 p.m. Many individuals were favorably impressed with this voting method because it consolidates the primary and general elections into one election. In primary elections, the few individuals that vote tend to be very passionate and dogmatic in their beliefs. This often results in far-right and far-left candidates leaving the reasonable middle devoid of candidates who can work through compromise to get things accomplished instead of spending all their time attacking the other side. Lane County elections ruled that our initiative came up 22 signatures short based on the 20% sample, claiming that the signatures did not match those on file. When voters are asked to sign petitions, they are frequently rushed and sign in a hurry. The result is that their signatures are not the most elegant. After the ruling that we had insufficient signatures, I personally contacted 31 of those voters whose signatures were rejected and so showed them signatures on their respective petition sheets. Every single one of them, 100% said yes. They signed that petition and that was their signature. Every one of them signed a sworn and notarized affidavit to that effect. I believe you've been given copies. Lane County elections said that we were 22 signatures short, but we provided them with proof that 31 of the contestants' signatures were indeed valid. In spite of the obvious error, they refused to change their opinion. Because the election department refused to consider the facts in this matter, we are asking the city council and mayor to rectify this injustice and place star voting on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you. Lee Roberts, followed by Matthew Yook.
Hallie Roberts. I live west of the Yapua Butte by the river. I was the former Star Voting campaign manager for Star Voting Lane County. I had the privilege of helping coordinate the collection of 16,000 signatures for Star Voting Lane County. And most of that signature collection was done in this city limits of Eugene. So I've been around a lot of people that have had these conversations with the citizens of Eugene, and it is clear to me that the citizens of Eugene want star voting. If you look at the data on the county vote that was taken, more than 70% of the citizens of Eugene voted yes for star voting. That's clear proof that we want it. And the intricacies of our elections office and the signature invalidations that occur on a sample size of 20% of the signatures collected is frustrating to me. The process of democracy is challenging when you have to require getting volunteers to collect signatures, and then for the elections office to not even look at all of the signatures is very frustrating to a citizen trying to improve the democracy of this place. So I do wish that all of the signatures would be looked at, and I am intrigued why so many signatures are thrown out when we ask the people, is this your signature, and they say yes. That's interesting to me. Star voting is the most forefront of election science. It was developed by the two main camps that are at the forefront, ranked choice voting and the Center for Election Science, came together at a conference in Eugene, and this came out of that. It solves all the problems of our modern system, and we could implement it here.
Thank you. Mark Frontmeyer, followed by Catherine Dunn.
Good evening. Thank you all for affording this opportunity to talk. I'm Mark Frontmeyer. I live in Ward 7. I am the founder of the Equal Vote Coalition and one of the chief petitioners of Star Voting for Eugene. I could talk to you till I'm blue in the face about all the reasons why I think star voting is super important. The reason I've gotten engaged in voting reform is because I believe we have a crisis in democracy, that our governments, particularly at the federal level, are not responsive to the will of the people and are not capable of handling the crises and the challenges of the 21st century. And star voting is designed from the root to actually represent what the voters want, to be a very clear reflection of the summation of all of the will of all the voters into the most representative candidate in each election. And I'd be happy to go over in great detail the reasons why that is and how it compares to every other potential reform out there. But what I really want to talk about tonight is just that in order to get a measure on the ballot for Eugene, you need, in this last cycle, we needed 8,091 signatures from valid Eugene voters. We collected more than 10,000 signatures from Eugenians. And we fell, according to calculations, 22 short, or 22 or 23. And again, of those were short because the signatures didn't match in a totally subjective read of the signature versus the signature in the voter file. We went back and contacted, and again, Mark Osterloh went back and contacted 31 of the 60 signatures that were rejected simply because they didn't match. And there were a whole lot of signatures that didn't match because they were out of the city limits or were in unincorporated areas. But these are actual voters whose signatures did not match subjectively. 31 signed notarized affidavits saying that they had signed the petition. That validation process is to make sure there's no fraud, not to disenfranchise voters. So please push it to the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you.